Wow, I was not expecting this series to get so big, but look at the momentum, look at the numbers. And when you do, I want you to know that it wasn't me that led to the massively huge numbers that this series has generated. It was you and your comments. There, you like that? Starting your day off with some gaslighting? Mike, isn't that what every channel does? Don't they all gaslight? They all try to alter your perspective so that you're more receptive to whatever they're selling? Probably. So, moving on with this one, I once again want to start with reading and replying to the comments from the previous video in this series, finally replying to old comments part 2. Dan Cave 5150 said, "Love your work, champion." Thanks, Dan. Night of Your Life said, "You are right, I think. Chris Watts expected a lot more time. He forgot that Shanann was loved by so many people." Of course, because he just saw everything as if he was in a room alone watching a screen and everyone else in the rest of the world was just on that screen and he could change the channel anytime he wanted to. He forgot that everyone else is in their own room alone watching their own screens and everyone else had their own life going on outside of his mind. So, in this case, at least, it was very satisfying to see such a cretin come to such a harsh realization. Jimmy T 995 said, "Hey Mike, how's it going? Any news on Chris Watts?" Jimmy T, by the way, has one of the best profile pics for his YouTube channel. But then before I replied, he replied to his own comment by saying, "I commented before I watched the vid and it was all about Chris. Guess I should have waited, lol." Yeah, that was kind of my fault. As much as I'm crediting all the commenters for the massively huge numbers. It was my fault that his name is nowhere in the title or a subtitle and his picture isn't on the thumbnail. You might have noticed if you looked at my channel that I absolutely despise using a criminal's likeness or words or names to try to get attention to myself or my material. That's why none of their pictures are in any of the thumbnails. I don't want to look at their ugly mugs every time I come to my channel. And I even debated when I started the Chris Watts, his Master Plan Revealed series, just not even putting his name in the title. But then I figured people need to see, they need to know what they're clicking on, His Master Plan Revealed, what does that mean to anyone? Nothing. So I ended up compromising by putting his name in the subtitle, Chris Watts Interrogation Review, so they would know at least what this subject of this video is before they click on it. So yeah, there were a few comments from my early book reviews that I went over, and then it's most of the comments that I haven't replied to yet have been about the Chris Watts videos. So continuing on to the next one, from his Master Plan Revealed Part 2. The next comment is from Shauna Deo. Says, "We want the details on everything, please, lol, even the way he sits there with his stupid head on the table not saying a word." I do have something to say about that. There was this video that I saw just the beginning of it a while ago, and then I went back to look for it later and it was gone somehow. It was something to do with how sleep deprivation affected Chris's mindset around the time of the crime, and that's why he made so many careless mistakes. It seemed really interesting. I just didn't have time to watch it, and then by the time I went to look for it again, I couldn't find it. But that definitely was a contributing factor. Remember, he stayed up all night until the next morning when he murdered his wife and his kids, and then he barely slept the next day before he went in for the second night of the interrogation, and that's ultimately when he ended up confessing because he was just sick of it. So then, after he could no longer leave, he ended up spending most of the time just finally getting that rest that he's been denied. Who knows how much insomnia he was going through in the weeks leading up to the crime that would lead to him not being rested enough to realize what a stupid plan he was conjuring up. Craig D. Griffiths, 6206. says, talking about his doublespeak, he mentioned in his interrogation that he, quote, loves his kids to death. Yeah, but yeah, that is a interesting thing. Like he wanted that to be part of his doublespeak that he used, where he would say it one way so that it would be true to him, but he was expecting it to come off in an innocent way to everyone he's talking to. So I love those kids to death. But even that's not true, because for him to plan their murders and then execute those before they were dead, he didn't even love them to death. He stopped loving them, if he ever did love them, before they were dead. So that was one of his failed attempts at doublespeak, and completely transparent, and kind of goes probably into maybe the sleep deprivation, laying his stupid head on the table. Amanda Buchan, 3593, says, good job, thumbs up, and a flag from another country, which was good to see. I'm glad to see people from other countries. Sorry, not the best with flags, so no offense. I just haven't looked up what flag this is from. But Pam's Birding says, Scott Peterson went to the vigil for Lacey and couldn't contain his glee, very similar to Chris, not being able to hide his grin during media interviews. By the way, I was saying that how some of me reading these comments poorly is the commenter's fault, because they're not spell checked. It's improper syntax a lot of the times. And when I try to read the names, it's just a mashed together email name. Then I saw the guy that did the voice acting for Arthur Morgan in Red Dead Redemption 2. He was reading comments and replying to those, and he was as eloquent as can be. So I guess it's me. Then again, he had massive editing. He had a lot of editing on this channel, so I'm not cutting anything out. The way I edit things together and handle transitions is by saying so. Moving on to reply to this comment. Scott Peterson's vigil couldn't contain his glee, similar to Chris not being able to hide his glee during the media interviews. The old duper's delight. That goes into how these people who commit unnecessary crimes, not for survival, just because they are too stupid to figure out a different way to, one of the many ways to solve their problem that they have, so they just resort to the lowest act of murder, is that, like, the duper's delight is so childish. And that goes into the fact that their brain just never matured. So they're like a little kid who's, I'm getting away with it, no one knows I'm lying, when in reality everyone knows they're lying. It's not important enough for them to get called out on it. But they got Chris and Scott Peterson and the other criminals who commit completely pointless crimes, got all the way to their adulthood, where you would think they would know better, and they're still mentally that little kid. Sean Adeo again, quote, she's decompressing, unquote. He's truly a monster. Yeah, the unnecessary use of the word decompressing, that was covered in his Master Plan Revealed Part 2. Yeah, some people said that, like Sean Adeo here. They say it sounded like he was about to say decomposing. Say, oh yeah, she's just decomposing somewhere. I mean, decompressing. It was so transparent that the words he used in his doublespeak were so awkward and out of place, because he apparently was just dealing with, he would use them in everyday life when there was nothing at stake. So no one would scrutinize him for using this doublespeak, like, oh yeah, I love my kids, and no one call him out on it. But then when he's calmly saying, yeah, I love my kids, during the investigation to their disappearance, and he's saying it exactly the same way as he would say it when his wife and kids were safe and sound, it's a little weird. And it comes off exactly as Sean Adeo said there. It sounds like he's saying she's decomposing somewhere, giving himself away. Then Fell Honey 1 says, bullseye, bullseye, bullseye. I read the emojis, yay. Thank you, Fell Honey 1. Sunny Sun 3740 says, I think he isn't sorry, not even a little bit. He is only sorry he got caught, nothing more or less. And I would give the bullseye, bullseye, bullseye to that comment. Guess who's back? Sonia Maria Alves de Mello. Oh, man. We need you, Arthur Morgan, voice actor, 6545. But then again, stuff gets lost in translation because I think English is a second language to this person. Just imagine if CW came straight away when Nicole called him, before she caulked the police. I'm reading it as it's written. He could easily killed her as well and pretend they went out together and vanished. She was in danger. She called the police before CW arrived. These men is insane, a real psycho, and a bunch of screaming faces. It's easy to imagine that he would lower himself to committing that act of just murdering the friend as well, but like it's not that he'd be immorally above such an act. I just don't think that he would complicate his plan. The anger he talks to about, remember, he references being angry for hours that morning because he failed to murder his kids on the first attempt. So then all the way until they were murdered 2 hours later and put in the tanks, and then the anger finally let up and he was completely normal for the coworkers showing up. That's all because his plan got interrupted and didn't go the way he wanted it to. So I don't think that he would have deviated from the plan. I think he would have he would have tried to be the nice guy in front of her too. He's not the kind of there are other murderers who probably would have done that, tried to get the friend out of the picture too, and then deal with it later. But I don't think old Chrissy is that kind of murderer. I'm shadow banned by Google. Andy 4028 says, imagine how enraged Chris was when he realized he overlooked Shanann changing the passcode on her phone when he was about to start typing the fake texts while pretending to be his wife. Good observation. The one thing he didn't think of, and it never occurred to him, the passcode would be the baby's due date because, well, Chris wouldn't have used a passcode Shanann could crack, yet Shanann simply used a date Chris should have known. I wonder how many texts Chris was able to read the moment Nicole Atkinson told him the code with the police standing a foot away. Yeah, that was one way Shanann was a hero, is that she changed her passcode, possibly suspecting that, like, in the weeks leading up to her murder at Chris's hand, she was saying he doesn't seem like the same person anymore. I don't feel safe around him. And it's possible that she did that specifically to protect herself from Chris, and it worked. So nice observation there. And then when he couldn't do anything with the phone, he just shoved it into the couch cushion, and it was found hours later in the day, by Nicole's son, who was looking around. So good job, Shanann. Touched by Fire 99. You make many very good points I had never thought of. Great analysis, Michael. Thank you, Touched by Fire 99. Annette 289. This is horrible. Annette 2892. Nice explaining, quote, safe. Yeah, that was so awkward, going back to the other comment about how decomposing, how his doublespeak with the word safe, it just was so out of context for the situation that it made him seem very awkward and not behaving the way he should be. So I'm glad that it's the way I'm glad that people, like, it's not that everyone should just agree with me or that I should only seek out people that I agree with, but it is reassuring to know that other people catch on to these tricks that people play to try to get away with sneaky acts. It's good to know that you're not the only person noticing these things. Other people notice it too. So you're not just going out there with a bunch of people in society who are like, duh, anyone could do anything to me and I'm just happy and oblivious. Other people notice this stuff too. So that makes you a little more comfortable that you don't have to be on guard for everything. Other people are catching stuff too. So that's why it's nice. The quieter you become, the more you 1198 said, We'll be watching your full analysis series of this case. Your observation skill in language and reading what is unintentionally revealed by the insufferable ego is over the top. Everyone will be sending you on a case and asking for your time. You be ready. Your Chris Watts analysis is fire. Your channel is going to blow up. Well, that was some nice things you said about the channel and the hope for where the channel would go at that point. Yeah, some people were recommending other cases to move on to. I only picked a couple because I'm not really a true crime fan, as I think another comment says later on. I just am a casual observer, and occasionally a case will get my interest when the analysis I see of the case does not answer all of the questions that I have to go and try to answer those myself. And there was so much in this case from all of the footage and all the other analysis. There was so much left out. For every single thing you look at, there's so much left out that you have this hunger to answer the questions. So it was nice that when I found channels that answered some of my questions, and then I still had leftover questions, and then me answering the questions answered them for others, it was a nice train of finding the truth to be part of. So thanks for that comment. Shane Blair 7785. Bro, I've watched millions of YouTube videos who spend every waking moment hours on this case, and I watched you for 10 minutes and knew that you were the only one I ever seen who said it all out loud. When you said the decompress statement, I thought the same thing. He put her in that hole, but he didn't put the girls in the tanks. I'm still working on that, but great job, man. I've been on this case since it was live on the news. Yeah, it was hard. It was hard finding. I mean, I wanted to get right to the point, so I'm glad that someone appreciated it, because there were hundreds of just hours long live streams. It was mostly fluff. It was just, hey, everyone, let's hang out and have a good time. And occasionally we'll discuss, well, wasn't that weird how there was a shadow in the driveway? Ho ho, thanks for showing up. Which is kind of what I'm doing now with these comments. But for the series itself, I wanted to get right to the point and answer these questions, because that's what I was looking for. So again, it was nice to see others who were in the same league of wanting answers and wanting the truth. 209K Pisano says, I cannot believe how on point this is. These are mostly things I never even thought about, but now hearing them said out loud, it's like, OMG, it's so obvious. This is exactly what was going on in his little murdering pea brain. I cannot stop watching. Mind blown. Glad you enjoyed it. Megatini says, this is someone who's had a lot of great comments. Timestamp of 9:52. The decompressing to me refers to the fact that he had been physically compressing her neck, and now she needed or was decompressing. That makes a little more sense to me than the gas. He's too dumb for that. He definitely comes off as too dumb for that. I do think he had a little bit of research, maybe just from movies and TV shows, because that seems to be what he references a lot. Megatini is also from another country, and it was great to build that bridge over the invisible walls that we make between us. How much time we got here? Yeah, I think I'm going to have to end it with that one. Goodbye.